Hi guys, I'm Gasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to talk about books, to talk about horror books, to talk about disturbing books, spooky books. So yeah, this is what we're going to talk about today, but also about movies because I also love horror movies a lot. So I thought I would combine this video and give you some book and movie recommendations.
It's coffee time.
So in this video, basically, I'm going to pair up books and movies that I think have a theme in common, that I feel like if you like the book, you would love the movie, and the other way around. I've done these videos before because I am a huge lover of horror movies as well, and thrillers and everything spooky. So I always try to find movies that, in a way, have the same kind of flavor that certain books and pair them together. So I give you some movie and book recommendations at the same time. Let's go. Some of these books, you might have heard me talking about them before because obviously I read the book, so they might be on my previous wrap-up videos, or they might have been in older recommendation videos as well. You know, a girl can only read so much. But anyways, the first book that I would like to talk about is a book that I just actually talk to you about on my last wrap-up, but it is the book that inspired me to sit down and compile a list to make this video, so we're just gonna get that one out of the way, and that is Kin by Patrick Burke. Now, this book, obviously, it is based around a family of cannibals that basically just kidnap people and kill them and eat them, so you already know what kind of movies I'm gonna talk about. So in this book, we have Claire that has just barely made it out alive out of this family's house. She is beaten up, she has been really abused, and she basically gets rescued last minute. But she realizes that if she really wants to stop being afraid, she needs to go back to this town to face her fears. So that's kind of like a little bit of what the book is about, but honestly there is just so much more that I don't want to mention because I feel like it's going to be a little bit spoilery if I tell you way too much, but you can get an idea of what this book is about. Now, this book has absolutely all the trigger warnings, so just make sure that you're ready for this book because it is extremely disturbing and gruesome, graphic. You know, it is a lot to take. Now, in this book, we don't just follow Claire in her journey. We also follow different sets of characters that are in one way or another connected to this town where this family lives, and they are connected also sometimes to the family themselves. And you're also gonna see the story from the family's perspective, which was one of my favorite things because this family of hillbillies, and I've been told when I say hillbillies, it's funny. But anyways, this family is just so weird, and it's so interesting to hear the story told by them and how they live and why they do the things they do. So if you're looking for a really gruesome story, here it is, Kin. And you already know, guys, what movie I'm gonna choose here, and that is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974, a classic, still one of my favorites today. And this was directed by Tobe Hooper, and it was a very, very low budget film, so much so that they had to shoot the whole film, I believe, in just 1 week, and the conditions they had to do it in was not great. A lot of the cast members complained because they were not even allowed to shower. Everything was stinking because there were dead corpses of animals and things like that. It was really sweaty, really hot. But due to consistency, you know, when you are doing a film, your clothes need to look the same after you have experienced certain things. So they didn't even had the chance to like wash themselves, so yeah, it was very bad. But apart from that, the movie was fun. So it follows a group of friends that are traveling in their van, and they come across this house, and they don't know that inside, instead of finding help, they're going to find a family of cannibals. So I feel like everybody is familiar with the story. Now, I don't know if this movie is gonna have the same impact nowadays as it had when it came out, because in the 70s when the movie came out, it was pitched as a true crime story and people believed it. Like, before the movie starts, there are some rolling credits that say, you know, this is based on true story, so people believed it. The movie was even banned in some countries because of the amount of violence that it had, and actually some people got hurt in this movie because, like I said, low budget, so a lot of things were done not so great. So there's a lot of controversy around the film as well, but It's still one of my favorite from the classic horror movies. I've always really liked Leatherface as a character, which it is loosely inspired on Ed Gein, you know, the serial killer. Not exactly, but loosely inspired. Now let's go to something a little bit more atmospheric, less graphic, and that is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I really enjoyed this book. It is kind of a gothic story that people are gonna love if you love Dracula. It follows a girl called Noemi, and she decides to go and visit her cousin Catalina after she receives a letter that raises her concern for her cousin. So Catalina is recently married and they never met this husband, so she just wants to go and check on her cousin, make sure that she's fine living with this new guy. But when she gets there, obviously things are not really gonna go as planned. At the beginning all is good, but surely Noemi starts to notice really weird things in this place. It seems something's off with this new husband. Even her cousin is acting a little bit different, a little bit weird. So this book is very strong when it comes to the atmosphere and the characters, and I really enjoyed it. I think if you love gothic horror, this is one you definitely need to get. And I'm gonna pair this with a movie that I feel like also has that kind of vibe of atmosphere, beautiful cinematography, and it's kind of like a gothic tale, and that is Crimson Peak by Guillermo del Toro. He directed the film, and I think it was released in 2015, so it's been a little bit. And the movie also has a novelization that I own, so in case you're not interested in the movie, movies are not really for you, maybe you want to try the book. It's basically the same thing that happened in the film, just put into a novel, because this one came out after the movie, so it is a novelization. That's why I bought it with this cover. Normally I don't like movie covers, but this one, you know, it is what it is because the movie actually came first. I really enjoyed this film because our main character is a really strong-willed woman that wants to be a writer, and she lives in a time and age where women are not really taken seriously when it comes to writing, and she insists on being a writer, and she's very stubborn. But then she also meets a guy and decides to marry him and she moves with him to his mansion, and when she gets there, creepy things start to happen. The place looks a little bit also like run down. Something's going on in that place. There's something lurking on the hallways, and she's gonna have to figure out what's going on with this guy and with this place. So it is a very atmospheric gothic tale. If you have not checked it out yet, I strongly recommend it to you. Next we have something completely different again, and we have Demon Seed by Dean Koontz, and this is basically a story in which a woman is kind of a recluse in her own house. She decides to stay home by herself as she has all the newest technology. The place is supposed to be super secure with all her gadgets and technology that she has, but there is one day a breach in her security system, and then some artificial intelligence takes over. So she basically is trapped inside of her own house and unable to make it out, and she has now to fight against this artificial technology that it is against her. So this is a really interesting concept and something a little bit different from your typical horror, because it's a little bit of sci-fi, I guess, in it. And I'm gonna pair this with a movie that I haven't really seen many people talk about, but I had a good time with it. It has not good ratings, but you know, it is what it is. And that is, I believe it's called Tao from Netflix, and this is a story in which is slightly different. So a woman is kidnapped and taken into a house, and she wakes up there and she realizes there's also 2 other people there that have been kidnapped together with her. And then she realizes that there is some sort of mechanism that has been attached to her neck to control her, and there is a robot that is an artificial intelligence in the house that is going to make it basically impossible for her to break free. So it's again a woman that is kind of fighting against technology in order to survive, in order to make it out of this house alive. Now let's go with a shorter read that I absolutely loved, and that is Wife by Samantha Kolesnik. Again, for this one, absolutely all trigger warnings. This is really disturbing, really intense. There is body horror here. It is a lot to take in. If you read true crime, this is 10 times over. So just for you to know, please proceed with caution. The story follows Angela, a woman that she feels like she's happy and content with her life, but then one day she has an awakening. She's at the supermarket and she sees this man and she realizes there's other things in life that she wants, and she gets this kind of like awakening, and that kind of gets her into going to dark alleys and getting involved in things that are way too dark, including some sort of weird plastic surgery that's going on in the dark alleys. That's all I'm gonna tell you. That's also what the book is pitched to be, and I'm not gonna go into details. I'm just gonna let you discover what actually happens. But like I said, it is a lot. Absolutely loved it though, but definitely not for those that have a very weak stomach. Just saying. And I'm gonna pair this with Task. Now this is a movie from Kevin Smith, and this movie is so weird. It is a horror comedy. There were a couple of things in the movie that I was not such a big fan of, but all in all, I really enjoyed this film. Another movie that it's a little bit too much when it comes to the body horror, but that ending was just so satisfying to me. So this movie is about an arrogant podcaster that decides to travel to Canada for an interview for a case that he's chasing, and when he gets there he meets this weird old sailor, and he invites him to his own place because he has a very interesting story to tell him for his podcast, and that is where basically the horrors start in this house. So that's what I'm gonna tell you, because I feel like it's kind of cool to get into the movie without knowing too much or not getting spoiled, but probably by this point you have sadly seen pictures, so maybe you've already been spoiled. But yeah, this one's great. Let's move to a more toned down story. It still has some horror in it, but it's mostly a thriller, and that is No Exit by Taylor Adams. So this thriller I read also in winter, which I feel like it's the perfect moment to pick it up. And I remember it was one of those thrillers that I really loved. It is really hard for me to absolutely love a thriller, because I feel like I've read so many that everything kind of seems to be the same, but this one really hit the sweet spot for me. So this is about a girl that is driving home hoping to get to her family on time at Christmas, and there is a snow blizzard, so she has no other chance but to stop at this like stop station where, you know, there's a house, a restaurant, somewhere where you can basically look for cover, for shelter, and wait for the blizzard to pass. So when she gets there, basically the place is empty, and there's only 4 other strangers there that she gets to meet and interact with. So the thing of this thriller is that when she goes outside to take a call, she realizes that inside of a van that belongs to one of those strangers, there is a girl, and she's handcuffed. So she assumes that somebody has kidnapped this girl, and she needs to figure out who of those 4 strangers is the owner of that car. So that's basically how the book starts. It's not a spoiler. There's also a film adaptation. I believe it was on Hulu, I'm not sure, but I watched it through Disney Plus, and I really enjoyed that one as well. But the movie that I have chosen for this one is another horror thriller. It's kind of like a neo-noir story that I thought was so good, and also not so many people have heard of it, or maybe, you know, it came out so many years ago that it's no longer on people's radar. And that is a movie that was a really loose adaptation of Agatha Christie's whodunit novel, And Then There Were None. And that is the movie Identity. We follow 10 strangers that are isolated at a hotel, you know, cut off from the rest of the world, and they're being killed one by one. And the way this movie is told, the way it works chronologically, is really interesting, it's really unique. So I'm just gonna let you guys explore it by yourself and not spoil it here, but just go into the movie expecting a really good whodunit story, and that's what you're gonna get. And from one whodunit story to the next, and this is a YA book that I recently read as well, and now a lot of other people are reading it, so I hope you all enjoy it, and that is Youre Dead by Catherine Foxfield. So this was so much fun. It is basically a story about a virtual reality game set in London, and the contestants are basically playing in order to win the prize to meet a social media star, the guy that actually created this new game, this new technology, and they are all participating also for their own personal reasons slash secrets that we'll get to uncover throughout the book. This was just so fast-paced and fun, and I really found myself trying to figure out who was responsible for the murders. You follow the story through different point of views, so you follow all the different characters, and I really enjoy to, you know, learn the story of each singular player and slowly kind of uncover the reasons why they're actually playing this game. And I decided to pair this one with a movie called Follow Me or No Escape. I believe those are the two names that you can find this movie under. So basically this is a movie that I chose because it is based on a social media influencer. So this guy that has his own you know, YouTube channel, Instagram, he's really popular, and he's always looking for the next big video to make, the best next experience. And so his friends decide to sort of kidnap him and take him to play a game. And the game is supposed to be the hardest, more gruesome escape room ever, and it is based in Russia. So that's where our story starts, and that's all that I can tell you as well, because there are some twists and turns in this story. A lot of people hated this movie but honestly I just had so much fun. This is a fast-paced, interesting story, you know, it just had everything just to make it fun and entertaining for me. That's what I was looking for. So if you have not checked this one out, I also recommend you guys because it is good fun. And now let's go to another fun book. This is a novella. It's called Kill the Babysitter by Stephanie Sparks. Yeah, so this one was just a blast because it was so unexpected, and I loved it. It is about this teenage girl that is trying to save up money to buy her dream car, and she pretends to have experience as a babysitter, and she gets a job. So she goes to take care of a family of kids, like their kids, I think it's 2 or 3, and the mother tells her there's a set of rules, and one really important rule is not to let the kids play with the Ouija board. So her first day on the job, the rules are already off the table because she doesn't know how to calm down the children, so she gives in and lets them play with the Ouija board, and that of course is going to have consequences. Like I said, I really enjoyed this one because it was not exactly tropey and typical, and that was a bless for me because normally a lot of books, even though I love them and I enjoy them and I have fun with them, they are a little bit more, you know, stereotypical, like I know what I'm going to expect. And this one, no. It went against things that I thought were gonna happen, so that's why I enjoyed it so much. And I'm gonna pair this one with another Netflix movie. Netflix here coming to the rescue with The Babysitter. Now, The Babysitter, they have part 1 and 2. Part 2 was not so much for me, but part 1 was really, really good. And it's about a 12-year-old boy and his babysitter that comes one day to take care of him, and he realizes that his babysitter might be involved in some sort of like cult that performs sacrifices, so he's gonna have to see if he can stop his babysitter. It was fun, it was like slashy, and it was so great. And Samara Weaving, I just love her so much. So if you guys have not watched this one yet, I really recommend it to you. When It Rains by Mark Allen Gunnels, it's another novella that I also recently read, and this one was really, really good and interesting because it is again a group of strangers that are trapped in a cafeteria, and there is this kind of weird rain falling outside. It's really like heavy and gooey, and it has a kind of like a slight color to it, and people don't know what's happening because it is not regular rain, so everybody is really scared. Always when there is some sort of phenomenon and we don't know what's happening, we always get scared. So these strangers are trapped there, and obviously you're gonna have to see how humans behave when they all think that they are in danger, and that they all have as well their own secrets. And I really, really loved it. I thought it was disturbing, it was fast-paced, it was great. So if you love anything that I've been saying about the book, pick it up. It's a novella, so you're also going to be able to read it fairly quickly. And obviously I'm going to pair this one with The Mist, which is a movie that was based on a Stephen King story. And in the same kind of way, we have a group of strangers that are trapped in a supermarket as this heavy mist starts to spread around town, and there are some bloodthirsty creatures inside of the mist that are going to target the villagers. So it is a very classic story. I believe everybody knows about it. There was also a TV show which was not that great. I had high hopes for it, but a little bit disappointing. But you can also read Stephen King's novel if that's what you want, instead of watching a movie. But yeah, I felt like these two were fairly similar. Now let's go to some folk horror. We have Cunning Folk by Adam Neville. This was a great read, atmospheric and creepy. Especially the second part was a roller coaster of things going on. And this is your classic story of a family that buys a house, they move there, and then things are happening around the house, in the woods in the area, and the family starts to question where the heck did they get themselves into. Apart from that, the neighbors are really weird people. They don't really know what's going on with the neighbors, and the neighbors told them to avoid the woods at all costs, and they think they're just trying to scare them. So you get the vibe here, right? So not to spoil it too much, but it gets really crazy and weird on the second half. It's such a roller coaster of things going on, and it was just so good. So if you like folk horror, definitely check this one out. And I decided to pair this book with one of my absolute favorite horror movies on Netflix, which is a Netflix exclusive. Again, Netflix coming to save the day, not sponsored, and that is Apostle. This was such a good folk horror movie. It was just perfection. This is a period piece movie, and we follow this guy that he thinks that his sister has been kidnapped and taken by a cult, or at least she's been brainwashed, and he decides to travel there to this like isolated little village to rescue his sister. When he gets there, people seem to be really friendly, you know, like to the point where it's shady. Shady people, and things do escalate in this movie. Oh boy, do they escalate, and it gets really gruesome. There are some certain scenes that are even hard to watch, which were my favorite. But this movie, I think it was a little bit long. I think it was around 2 hours. I need to rewatch this movie because it's been a long time since I watched it. But definitely, if you love folk horror and you have never seen this movie, you absolutely have to. And last but definitely not least, I have here a middle grade title for you, and that is The Stitchers, which is Fright Watch book 1 from Lorien Lawrence. And this one is about Quinn and Mike. They are such a great duo in this book, and they have certain concerns about their neighbors. There is specific set of houses that have been there forever, and the people that live in there seem to have been there forever as well, and they call them the oldies. So Quinn starts to, you know, do this investigation, try to figure out what those neighbors are hiding. Are they even aging? Are they vampires? What is going on? So that is basically what happens in the book, and I felt like this book had definitely a couple of moments that were really creepy, really well done. There is also a little bit of teenage drama going on, but it didn't bother me at all. And I'm really excited about book 2. I've been waiting for the paperback release, which is going to be released now in August, so I'm definitely going to be picking up book 2. And I don't know if I've talked about this movie in this channel before. I feel like I might have, but it's such a good hidden gem. And this is a movie that fits perfectly as well with the book, and that is Summer of '84. This movie was so much fun, and I feel like it is because it took me back to the 80s and the 90s, you know, that kind of vibe, more the 80s. And it is about a group of kids that start to suspect, they have the suspicions that their neighbor, who's also a policeman, is hiding a really dark secret, and they decide that they need to investigate this neighbor and figure out what he's hiding. And obviously, as they start to get involved, they're gonna put themselves in danger. So that's what I'm gonna say about it. But if you're interested, really check it out. If you're missing that kind of 80s kids movie vibe, it is a horror movie, so you know, keep in mind that. Don't let your 5-year-old watch it. But it is really good, and I absolutely loved it. So I feel like if you liked The Stitchers, you'll probably enjoy this film. Alright, you guys, so that was everything. Those were my 10 recommendations of books and movies that are in one way or another a little bit similar. I think I talked too much in this video. I always do that. I just talk too much, so apologies for that. Also, a lot of coffee has been consumed, which, you know, makes me also talk a lot. But anyways, you guys, let me know down below what you thought about this video. If you enjoy this type of content, if there's any books and movies that you feel like are similar, give me your recommendations down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!